Great. So welcome everybody on this Wednesday night. I hope everybody's enduring and if possible, beyond enduring, thriving, although that might be a lot to ask during this time. Jasmine Gutierrez has been so incredibly gracious and generous to spend time and volunteer with us today. These are just a series of seminars that I'm doing just for people to feel connected in the community, and people like Jasmine who are working on the casting side are generous to want to be a part of that. So big thanks to you.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, that's so sweet.
Yeah, no, it's a lot because you have a tremendous amount of experience, and what I really we worked together, for those of you who don't know, when Jasmine was working with Krisha and Jamie, who we talked with a few weeks ago, on Henry Danger. And that's how we know each other.
Right.
And I was always really impressed, Jasmine, by your like passion, but also humility and sensitivity to casting.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, your attitude was always really great, and always very like you're just a person, like you're a person with a heart, and it's just it's really nice to see, and I know that anybody walking into your casting room is going to feel that from you, and so I think it's really
Definitely a goal.
Pardon me.
That is the goal. I want them to feel like it's a safe space, because what is the point if it's not a safe space? You're not going to be able to either commit or lose yourself in the moment. And so, yeah, I always want you to feel, and you being the general or actor, to feel like I'm just some person that you're, hanging out with, who just happens to also be watching you very intently.
Scrutinizing your every move.
Yeah, exactly.
But really scrutinizing with the intent of, like, is this right for the role, and what can I do to help you, give you any direction or adjustments to make it better, and that kind of thing. You're not scrutinizing in that way that's like judgmental.
No.
Yeah.
I think that I am so terrified of being judged. I could never be an actor. I could never be in front of the screen, or in front of the camera, excuse me. Like, even just being here right now is terrifying. I know it's just you and I talking, but like, I know people are watching. And so, like, for me, I don't like being the center of attention. So for the people that can and want to and strive and they work so hard at it, like, I just am in awe of those people. And whenever I approach any casting gig, I always approach it in the sense of, like, I just want to see who all is out there. I send out so many self-tapes, so many self-tapes. And I think I might annoy people with that, but it's also because I just want to see who's out there. It's just, actors are awesome.
Well, that's great to hear from casting. I think it's easy for actors to forget that. That you as the casting director or casting associate, whatever your role is in casting, is there to support.
Yeah.
So you're working with, tell us about the office you're working on now. And I know that obviously you're on a break, but you actually, in a way, I mean, what you told me is you're kind of not on a break too. You're actually doing some stuff.
Yeah, so I am right now working with Marjorie Simkin and Orly Sidowitz. We just started literally just this week, just started something new. And I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, so I'm just going to say that. But it's a new foray for us, so that's exciting. And then, we have heard rumblings of, Star Trek and all that stuff. We worked on Star Trek Discovery season 3 last year, so we're hoping season 4 will happen, and then that will be coming up soon. And then on the side, I'm doing a short film for a participant in the AFI Directors Workshop for Women. I live by the airport, so sorry if you can hear the airplane.
That's like a lion roaring, actually.
It's like Burbank, man.
Okay.
And then I just started an indie feature, which is, I think, my first feature on my own, now that I realize, because I say it out loud. So, and that's been really fun. So.
What's the difference for you working on a feature versus working on a TV series like this, and being on your own versus working with a team?
It's so hard. So working on TV is awesome. I actually really like working in TV because I get to see so many more new people than you would in film, because I feel like in film a lot of times it can be attaching names, or they just want to, they aren't necessarily looking for like the best actor, they want the cachet or the clout. And so I don't feel like you can find those new fresh voices like you can in TV. So that's why I enjoy TV. But that's not to say I don't want to do film. I want to do everything. I want to work in video games if I have to. But yeah, and then what was the other question?
Well, working with a
team or alone? I really enjoy working with a team. It's not that working alone is like hard because you're doing everything. There's something so creative about being in an office with other people who are like-minded, and we're just bantering around ideas for, a role, and just being like, well, what about this person? No, that's a crazy idea. And then the person going, oh wait, that's actually maybe not so crazy an idea. I really like that chemistry that you can find in a casting office. So eventually I would like to partner. I have someone in mind, but she's busy.
to have your own casting office, you mean?
Like eventually down the road. Yeah.
For sure. So do you want to talk a little bit about, there was a question that got emailed to me about what your process is like when you're casting, but maybe if you want to talk a little bit about, this is like the generic question that you probably always get asked, which is, how did you end up here? But then piggybacking on that, now that you're here, what's your process? So 2-part question.
So I got into casting because a family friend is a casting director. And she and I were at a family party, and she was like, wow, you really seem to, I liked IMDb. It was like my homepage growing up. I would always go on there and like figure out who was working on what and who was in what with who, with all of that stuff. And so she was just like, do you want to come see what I do? And so I did that. And I was like, oh, this is a job. I can turn my hobby and my like into an actual career. And that was when I was in the middle of college, and they did not have any kind of, degree that would be similar to working in casting, because there really is no degree. And so finished school, worked at Domino's Pizza for 2 years as a manager. It was actually really fun.
This is where you got your humility from. Okay.
It was really, really fun because it was like I was in charge, voices. So there you go. And what else? Sorry, I'm pinning your video. There we go. After a while at Domino's, I was just like, I have to do casting. And so I just kind of bit the bullet and started, doing internships, assistant gigs, and got lucky and ended up with Krisha and Jamie over at Bullock and Snow Casting. And, they really, I think that having them as one of like my first set of bosses, not the first, but one of them, really, I think speaks to the humility that you say that I have. Like, they are just the most real women, I think, ever. I love them. I feel like they are my literal family. And I don't think that I would be as empathetic, maybe.
Okay, your name's on it, not mine.
All of, not necessarily.
Hang on. Someone, please mute your video.
It's on my computer.
Hang on. Sorry, Jasmine.
No worries.
How come I can't hear?
They just, they instilled that this is meant to be a safe space. We are meant to be uplifting these people and helping them get to the next step. This isn't about finding, that one needle in a haystack. It is about just.
Oh, sorry. Hang on.
Who's the best person for the role. And so, yeah, I mean, I had a long, very fortuitous path to where I am now. And what was the second part?
Well, I just want to back up for 1 second, because you made this incredible leap, which was like, yeah, I was working at Domino's for a couple years, and then I realized I have to go into casting. I'm like, wait, what?
Well,
what was the thought? I mean, was it the family friend at that point?
No, I was interning while working 60-hour weeks at Domino's and being the manager. So, I'd be working all day as an intern. I was going to, 2 days a week and working the 60-hour work week at Domino's. So it's like I'd be all day in an office, and then I'd go close Domino's, and then I'd wake up the next morning and I would be having to open the store. And then, so it was getting really exhausting, and not gonna lie, the customers were starting to get on my nerves. And so I just was like, I'm not happy. I just knew I wasn't happy, and it was affecting my relationship. It was affecting my friendships. I just was in a bad space. And so I just realized it was weird, over a Thanksgiving break, I realized it. And I went into the office, and I remember asking the associate, I was like, I think I'm going to quit Domino's because I just cannot do this anymore. I want to devote to casting. And she was like, well, that's great news, because they're going to ask you to quit Domino's and work on this film for us next beginning of January.
They don't want everybody talking. No, they want to hear just the host and the.
Yeah, I know all that.
Exactly. See, they get it.
Hey, Chris, could you go through the participants and see whose mics and mute the mics? Thanks.
So that's how I ended up making that drastic leap from I'm a Domino's.
Okay, yeah. So
I'm
that makes a lot of sense. Did you go to college, or did you go right from?
Yeah, no, I went to Pepperdine in Malibu. At the time when I was in high school, I had gone there for a seminar, like a youth citizenship seminar, and I fell in love with the campus. And so I was like, I'll go there. I don't regret it. I wish I had left the state, because now being in casting, I can't go very many places. I can't go move to New Mexico just for the heck of it. So I think that college would have been my one chance at that. But with the way things are now, I mean, so many things are being done via video and telecommunications. So I guess it is all possible at this point.
I'll come back to the second part of the question, which is about the process, but I'm curious as to what your thoughts are about where things are at now and what changes you see coming out of this situation. I mean, I don't expect you to have a crystal ball, but knowing what just, what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was interesting when the stay or shelter in place, order was put into place, whatever the phrasing is, it didn't feel different so much for me as a casting person working at home. Like, I was like, oh, this is my everyday life. Like, okay, this is great. Now I'm getting a little stir crazy, because now it's been a few months, but it really just solidified the fact for me that casting can be done virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, I love being in the room with people, but I do love the volume I can go through. Like, I can see, 300 people as opposed to maybe 60, because I have to pay for the space, because I'm an indie person. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many other things. And I don't want to miss out on someone because I didn't have enough time to see them.
Do you think things are going to go more in that direction? And do you think people will still come, you'll still have rooms?
Yeah, I think so. I think there will definitely still be rooms. You're never going to, I feel like, no offense to producers, but I feel like they always need to see it. They need to see it in the room. They need to see that chemistry or feel that chemistry. I think, with Margie and Orly's office, we do almost all of our first rounds for our casting as self-tapes. So Orly and Margie can go through hundreds of people, whereas opposed to 60 people before, and so we're already kind of doing that. We have been doing that for the last couple of years. I kind of do see more people going that way. And you do see actors now have full-on home kits and green screens and the O-ring light thing. They are so professionally there to go. And so it's almost like a double-edged sword, because they can be absolutely perfect, and therefore maybe it is literally just a performance in the sense that they've mimicked it, if that makes sense what I'm saying. Like, they've mastered that take. Maybe in the room they wouldn't be able to be flexible with their acting. Does that make sense?
So are you saying that people are getting too rigid in the performance, or?
They might. I think that could be a downside for a self-tape, is that they will have the performance down to a T, and maybe in the room they wouldn't be able to take the direction that we would need to give them for that performance.
You don't know how well they'll do at taking notes.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
But wouldn't that be the callback where you'd find that out?
It would be, but I do know that, you know, sometimes you don't have as much time for the callbacks, and therefore you don't want to waste anyone's time. You don't want to waste the actor's time. You don't want to waste your time. And I think that is sometimes why we don't give people that second chance, because there's just limited time.
Mm. So do you have any advice for actors in terms of how to, I mean, when you're doing a self-tape, is it like, some casting directors don't care if sides are in hand for a self-tape, others do. What's your position on that?
I mean, it's hard. If I'm telling you I need this self-tape in a couple of days or maybe tomorrow, and it's, you know, 3 or 4 pages, I do not expect you to be off book. Like, I think if anything, it depends on how much time you're given. Like, it all is very much, what is the word? It correlates, right? You know, it depends on how much the material is, how much time they're given. Yeah, that would be.
So if you've given them a week or 5 days, then you would probably expect them to be off book. If it's just a couple days or the next day.
If I even say, like, you can do this on your phone, I just need a quick turnaround, like, I'm not going to expect you to be off book. Like, there's no way for me to expect you to be off book. That would be, I mean, some people can do it, but not me, you know.
I mean, what I tell actors when I'm coaching them for a self-tape, and especially if they're feeling pressured for time, is what's most important is their connection to the material, their commitment, their presence, their basically telling the story.
Yeah.
Is way more important than if they're holding sides in their hand. Because
right.
It's an audition. It's not, you're not shooting it to be edited into the movie.
And it's, you know, it's not always that your audition is going to be the end result. Sometimes that happens in television where they just need to find someone immediately and put them on camera the next day. That can happen. But for the most part, you know, it is a work in progress. I would say it's also very important to read the instructions, obviously. Read everything. Reading is so important. Read every single thing that casting office has sent you, and your agent or your rep or whoever it is. And then I would say, even if they don't ask for it, maybe give a couple of different takes. I know sometimes it can be frustrating because you just want to get it done and over with, or maybe you don't want to do double the work. But I think that there are many times when I've watched someone's first take on a self-tape and I haven't been that impressed. And then I go on to the next take and I'm like, holy shit, like, oh crap, I really, really like this. I see the differences they've made. I just didn't like that reading. And so I think it's important to always include more than one take with a self-tape.
Do you want it in a separate, like, MP4, or do you just have one after the other in the
however they have asked you to do it? Like, let's say they've asked you to put all the, you know, just upload it as one big file, you know, put the scenes together. And then if they've asked for individuals, just obviously do individuals. But
so in terms of the different takes,
I don't think any office is going to go, oh, I'm not going to upload this video because they gave me an extra take I didn't ask for. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that part matters.
Right.
I think that no matter what, just upload it. Just upload it.
Just get it out there.
Just put it out there.
Yeah. So what is your process? Can you just go through the process of casting? So you got the script. Do you tend to, I know that some people rely on breakdown services to do the synopses of the characters. Other casting directors like to do it themselves. What do you like to do?
I was raised the old school way. We do it ourselves. I didn't even know for a long time that Breakdown literally did that for you. I thought you had to do it yourself and then you just sent it to them. So we really like to write our own descriptions. I've learned a lot I feel like with Margie in terms of writing breakdowns over the last year. You know, I feel like I used to be very flowery and want to, like, build up this character rather than just, this is what he is, A, B, C, go for it. You know, either you are those things or you aren't, you know? And so that has been really helpful in my process of just being succinct. This is what I'm looking for. And therefore I feel like it's better for you guys because you're like, oh, okay, this is what she wants, done, moving on.
Okay, so then you got the breakdowns in your succinct way of writing them.
Yes.
And then what happens next for you?
So generally what I do is when we get a script, I will go through it and I will read it and I will find out, who all the new characters are. Let's say it's for a TV episode. And we have something we call like a 3-column, which is it's just a chart that lets us know who all is in this episode. And after we break it down that way, I then go in and make my little breakdowns for each individual character. We have to get them approved through very many processes, finally get to release it to you out into the world. And then we all just start going through submissions and we just look at every single person. I love slate shots on breakdown. That's one of my real fun things because I really like that I can see that person just in the moment, just saying hi, like it's nice, because I don't have that at home, right? So, and even with like a real slate that they are gonna include in their video, sometimes the slate video feels more real than the slate I get with the tape. It's very weird, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I really like slates because it really just gives me that quick glimpse into who you are. And sometimes like I won't even be into your picture, no offense to some people, but I'll click your slate shot and I'm like, oh my gosh, that person is super interesting. I need to look at them more and I need to dive in more. And once we go through all of that and figuring out how to see, then our first round of self-tapes. So yeah.
And so then, okay. And then what happens? So you looked at, let's say you've broken down, you have your like top 10 self-tapes or something that you like. What happens next?
As in, when you say that, you mean like we've already viewed everybody and now this could be the 10 that we're sending on kind of thing?
Yeah, or maybe even before that. So we're with Margie and Orly, do they work together or is like one working on Avatar, the other's working on Star Trek?
No. So yeah, so like they are television partners. Their film projects, they both do separately, but the television stuff, it's always them together. So they're both going through the submissions, they're both going through the videos and watching everyone. And it's kind of fun because it's almost like we're second, triple guessing each other. And, we also are learning each other's tastes because it'll be really funny. I'll be like, no. And Marge will be like, yeah, like you don't see it. And so it's interesting in that way. I think I answered the question.
Yeah. And so as the casting associate, what is your role with them then? What do you do?
I mean, I would say a lot of times my job is, how can I say this? I feel like my job is kind of like their job plus the administrative side. So I'm like the in-office manager, but because I've been with them for a few years now and they trust me and they want to help me grow as a casting person, they have allowed me to start going through submissions with them. Or if I know an actor that maybe they wouldn't have brought in or have them self-taped, they will let me have that person. They trust me to make some of those decisions. And I would say at the end of the day, it all comes down to what they think, right? They are the ones casting this project. But it's a great office in that I do feel the trust and the support to be creative and to come up with ideas or to present ideas to them.
So, so once they have like a short list, do they then take that? Do they have this is our first choice, this is our second choice, or whatever, and then they send them to producers?
Generally, we don't order them. We have our top 8 or top 10, or some. I've been in with one producer, he was like, I don't want more than 4 at a time. And we're like, that's crazy, but okay. And so we will send them and not really give any commentary. We want their honest opinions on everything. Let's say we majorly disagree with something, we might, the ladies might bring it up and say, I really think you should take another look because of XYZ, I mean, that's what they're there for, right? They're there to help with the casting process. But generally, no, we just send it off and everybody kind of weighs in who needs to weigh in. And after we weigh in, there's different levels of weighing in before we can go and then make the offer to that person.
Yeah, I guess it has to goes to the producers, and then it might, if it's network or whatever.
Yeah, it's like it goes to, I mean, it depends, but I'm trying to think. when I was at Nickelodeon, like, you know, we did producer callback, and then we had to get network approval, and then we had to get, I feel like, a third approval before we could then make the offer to that actor. I mean, it's crazy how many people have to approve someone before you can hire them sometimes. Like, it's not as simple as like when people come up to me and they're like, oh my God, you're in casting. Can you like put me in something? No, I'm literally the lowest person on that totem pole. Like, I can get you the Selftape audition, but that's about it. You have to do the rest of the job.
Right. So then what, the other side of it is then, so once they make the choice, then you're on the phone with agents, managers, right?
The agent or the manager. It is so interesting because, you know, casting can be there's a duality to it, right? Like, we are, you know, for lack of a better word, judging people and saying like, but not wanting them to know like if we like them, right? And then when we figure out, okay, we do like them, then it becomes like they are now their rep is trying to sell them for the best possible price. And so it then becomes like, it kind of flips the market. Like, the market no longer is the ball is no longer in my court. That's the phrase. You know, it becomes more of, you know, just working things out and negotiating. It's such a weird, we like to say also that we're kind of the therapists of the production. People like to come talk to us.
Do you mean on the producing side?
No, I mean like everybody in production, like Crafty, the accounting people just like, because like I said, casting is a safe space. So they all like to come and talk to us about things.
Casting is kind of like the door to the production. It's sort of like, it's like if you were a hotel, you'd be the lobby.
Yes. I'm the concierge. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. You're the welcoming, you're the host.
Exactly. I'm the welcoming committee. I love that.
The welcoming, yeah, I love that too. It's a good way to think about it, actually. Okay, cool. So thanks for going through that. And
it was very convoluted. I really get on tangent.
No, it's really clear. Actually, it's really clear. I mean, it is what it is, and it's not a science. It's and I think every office works probably somewhat differently, but it explains a lot. It tells us the order of things.
Yes.
So there was a question, and it's weird because on the Zoom thing that goes out, it automatically goes send questions to me. I never put that on there, and I'm like, where are all these questions coming from? Why are they coming? Then I realize on the thing it says that, so I have to stop that because it's like I don't know what to do with all these questions. But
I don't have any questions to send you. Sorry.
But I'll ask you one of them. And Andrea Sweeney, it's kind of a cool question, which is, I'll summarize it. If you've been in projects like films, particularly, right, and you don't really have any control how it was edited or what the budget, maybe they ran out of money, and then the end result isn't great, and maybe it got bad reviews. Does that at all, as you're working your way up in your career, does that at all influence you on how something did? Like do you,
so basically, do I, after we've cast something, do I then look and see how it does, and how does that reflect on me?
No. Like, let's say they're looking at someone in their resume, and then they were involved in some project that was absolutely abysmal. Does it reflect negatively on them as they're building their career?
I do not think so. I don't want to definitively say so, obviously, but I've been in offices where we are looking for maybe another assistant or another associate. And more often than not, what we're looking for is what casting office they've worked in. It's not necessarily what the project was or how it did, but what office did they work with and who was their bosses, how have they been trained, those kind of things. We're not really looking to see if, the show did horribly, therefore I'm gonna not hire that person. I don't think that necessarily makes a difference.
And that's the same for actors.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that makes a difference. I've never, looked at something. I've never looked at someone's resume and gone, oh my God, they were in this movie. They did so badly, or that movie did so badly. I'm never gonna like even consider them. No. Oh God, no. I can't. That would be just so like limiting, right? Like that would be so limiting. There are a lot of flops out there.
Oh yeah, Brad Pitt wouldn't be working. Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro. They all had flops.
No, I mean, no. When I'm looking at a resume, I'm looking at your training. If you're new, like if you're on, maybe if I'm casting a short and it's through Actors Access, I'm looking at what your training is. I'm looking at like, do you have even just like some little video on there on their in their media tab on their profile. I just want to see that they're out there stretching that acting muscle, doing something.
Yeah. Does your office is your office doing any kind of open calls or anything like that, or is that kind of
we don't generally, unless it's like when we worked on Avatar sequels, we did, but that was like many years ago. It was like 3 or 4 years ago now. And that was because we were looking for kids. It's generally when you're looking for kids that open call things happen. And I'm not, right now, our office isn't doing very many youth-oriented television or films. So,
are there more Avatar movies coming?
Yeah, they were meant to start filming again in New Zealand, but then obviously the world shut down. But yeah, there's gonna be 4 more.
4 more? Wow.
Yeah. There's 4 more movies. They kept those scripts in a gun safe. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but it did. Like wow. It was very locked down. No one read those scripts.
I'm seeing some questions just in the chat, so I'm just looking at that to see if there's anything that we haven't talked about. Ariel, is there if there's approval needed from producers and then the studio's execs, is that 2 different casting sessions? No, that would be the same. They would just send the tape, right?
And yeah, we would just send the tape on, and then we would also, like, let's say maybe the producer, let's say someone didn't like someone's tape, we might ask them to come back in and redo it. But more often than not, it's just we're sending tape, continuing the tapes along the chain.
Yeah. And then once you send it to them, are you telling the agents or the managers they're pinned? At what point do you tell that they're pinned?
I think it might be like we might not even be allowed to use those words anymore, like to tell people that, like, there's so many different rules of engagement. And I can't remember if like you can even tell someone they're pinned anymore. It might, I can't remember, but more often than not, what I will do is just call them and be like, they are of interest and we want, just please let us know if anything is coming up for them. We will track down that info before we even send them on to the producers, because we want to know if they're even available, if it's going to be an issue. So, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Let's see. Someone's like, Dark Side of the Sun. That was Pitt's finest. So how many submissions would you get for a breakdown?
It's thousands, you guys. It's wow. Thousands. I mean, I feel like I'm very low on the totem pole when it comes to being in the casting world. I'm still establishing myself as a casting professional. And I get, 1,000 to 2,000. No, actually on this last thing I did, I got almost 3,000 submissions for one role. And it's just like, it's insane. It's like, how is there so many people out there? But they're all out there. And that's why I say, like, I'll literally send out like 300 self-tape requests because I have so many submissions. And sometimes I'm like going through and I'm like, no, Jasmine, you don't need to see any more self-tapes. And I'm like, but I don't know. You never know. What if that person is the person, So it's crazy.
When you say you send out 300 self-tape requests, you mean instead of a breakdown?
No, I mean like after I get my submissions, I will then go
Oh,
through
I see.
see who I like, and then I'll do the EcoCast self-tape request.
Yeah.
And some people will say, nope, not gonna do this. I had one person get really mad at me and said I required way too many rules, and I was like, I just asked you to be well lit. Like, I don't okay. But yeah, I would say more like maybe 2% I'll get like of declines. Most people want to do a self-tape, so. And
Yeah.
it's getting a lot more normalized, like we had said earlier.
Yeah, especially right now. So I'm curious about the agent manager thing. Are there, like, when you get submissions, I mean, there's the professional kind of like, okay, yes, we treat all agents and managers equally and all that. And then there's got to be favorites. There's got to be people that you really trust more in terms of their taste, etc. Is that true?
I mean, I would say, yeah, it's true for everybody, right? Like there are, I would say for like the older school way of thinking, when it came to casting, like they literally had like A agencies, B agencies, C agencies, and they would literally get their physical submissions and separate them in those piles, right? So I think that some casting people still kind of think in that regard, like who's in that A pile. It's so funny because, Margie and Orly are older, so they, they've been around so long. They know every single agent, they know every single manager, so they have the people they trust. But there's a lot of new up and coming people that maybe I know that they don't know. And so that has been an interesting kind of like, I think it's been interesting for them to see like, oh, there are, these people we don't know of, these agents we don't know of, they do have people that are viable for our projects and stuff like that. So it's been interesting kind of integrating both of our ways of thinking into how we're looking at our submissions.
This is a bit of maybe beyond, I'm asking too much, might be beyond your scope, so tell me if I'm off, but is there anything that you can suggest to people when they're looking for an agent and manager to keep in mind, or questions to ask them that we might not think of as actors, but you as casting, dealing with them in a different way might be important?
I mean, that is like a really deep question.
I mean, some of it's like negotiation. Like, there's no way for us to know how. We'd have to just kind of go on instinct about how our agents or managers are at negotiating, but you would know. Is there anything that we should be asking them to try and elicit like some sort of understanding of how they are in that regard?
I guess how well an office knows of them, but that sounds like that's hard. You can't ask them. You couldn't ask an agent like, hey, how well known are you by casting? You know what I mean? Like, how well are your relationships with them? That's an interesting question. I'd like to pass on that one. And I want to think about it because, I mean, I know I have had that question a lot, and I kind of always do it case by case, whoever I'm speaking with. And when they're asking me questions about someone, I don't know yet. I have to really think if there's like a generic way for an actor to go, okay, this person's going to fight for me. Yeah, I need to think about that.
I mean, I think that my rule of thumb in terms of when I choose my representation is how passionate are they about my work?
Right.
That's number one, right? If they're
how passionate they are in general too. Like, are they into the meeting? Like, are they into the conversation? That is always a huge indicator for just a good person or not.
Yeah. But it's so hard to get representation in LA right now that I think some people are like, just anybody who'll take me, I'll go.
Right. And that can be really hard because then you might be signed to someone, but they might not be submitting you for things. And it's like you are almost like wasting your time and your money.
Yeah. There should almost be like, and this would never happen, but there should be like a whole survey that casting directors fill out that assess all of the agents and managers in town on a whole bunch of different criteria.
Ooh, that's a good point.
I mean, that'd be very useful for actors, and it would make agents and managers step up.
oh gosh, I feel like I have something on the tip of my tongue that could like, I'm trying to think of maybe just, I honestly feel just like how responsive they are. Do they feel, I hate that. I'm literally just going to be like, what are their vibes?
Well, they totally, right? What are their vibes? Yeah, like you go with your gut.
That's what it comes down to. Like when we're, you know, casting an assistant for our office and we're looking to hire someone, it's like, well, who is going to work best with us and our temperaments? You know, like who do we vibe with? Like that is what's going to make a good work environment. Yes, I mean, they can be, you know, meticulous and organized and all that stuff, but so many people can be that and not have the right vibe for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. I mean, I have actually met with people who were, I think they would negotiated wonderfully, but I could tell that the vibe wasn't right.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah, it's like I think it's got to be people that are, like you said, passionate about your work, and maybe they're like, maybe they're on you to be like, are you training? Are you going to this? Did you sign up for this class? Did you do that? You know, maybe it's taking an active interest in what they are doing as opposed to just waiting for those jobs to come to them, waiting for a breakdown to be out.
It really is so much about how you groove with someone. So, okay. So I didn't mean to put you on the spot with that question, but it's an interesting conversation. I mean, it's really something that we never talk about with casting. We never talk about that. We're just, you know, it's like, but it's, you see another side to our representation that we don't.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was on Henry Danger for a couple of years and could talk to you guys like candidly that I was like,
Right.
wow, I hadn't thought of all that. So it was really, it's interesting. So, okay, here's an interesting question about submissions. Is there any, does it matter whether someone sends their submission in early or late in the process? Like they're the first ones that you get, the first ones you look at, or is it all just kind of lumped in alphabetically and you look at them once the deadline's over?
No, I mean, like, depending on how many self-tapes there are, I try, when I'm the associate on a project, I try to make sure, yes, I am still accepting submissions for Cherry, by the way, to the answering one of the questions in the
Oh,
chat.
good, you can see the chat.
Yeah, I'm still looking through those submissions. But when I'm the associate on a project, I want to make my boss's job as easy as possible, right? I want them to be as creative as possible. That's what I'm there for, to take away everything for them. So no, we don't really, I wouldn't say someone turning in their self-tape way before is going to make them more of a contender than if they did it right before the deadline. As long as they're getting it in and I'm not having to track you down and find out why I haven't gotten your self-tape yet, like that's what matters. They're literally watching every single tape. And I mean, when we were on the Avatar sequels with the kids, we were on that for 10 months. And we were literally going back and watching people's self-tapes over and over. I would say we probably had about 8,000 self-tapes from around the world for the kids for 6 roles, and I saw each flipping tape at least 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Because we would get new, you know, parameters for what we're looking for. And so no, I don't think it matters if you turn it in early or late.
Okay, that's good to know, especially if you're watching all of them. So
Exactly.
well, okay, I'm gonna get to Denise's question in a minute, but oh gosh, there was a good question up there, and I was trying to remember what it was. It's about self-tape. I mean, you know, there's a lot of classes out there about how to self-tape. I think it's, I mean, it's pretty basic. It's like, make sure you're lit, make sure we can hear you.
Yeah,
It's about
always
performance.
double check the video before you send it. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that I can see you. My background is really distracting, so this would be a bad background. But yeah, I want to make sure that we can hear you, we can see you, and it's always nice to have a reader. I know it's really hard, especially now, to have a reader. But I have been having people do it like with a Zoom call, which has been, you know, I can't really tell a difference. I'm not even watching that. You know, there's so many more allowances to self-tapes than there would be in the room, and vice versa. It's really very interesting, the difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. So And you know, people are basically, there's people that have these great setups with cameras and lighting and the, you know, but I think essentially you just want a blank wall in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to see you. I just want to see your face.
I have heard of stories where people, for certain types of auditions, especially for big roles, might actually, they create like this little 2-minute short film with the sides.
Oh,
So
wow.
they're actually, if it's like a desk scene, they're actually at their desk and they're shooting it like as if it's shot, you know.
Yes,
Or,
it has to happen.
is that, I mean, I guess you have to kind of trust your gut whether that would be appropriate or if it's over the top, but
It's funny because it's a novelty for sure. Everyone is always like, come look, they actually made a movie for this, you know. Sometimes I can think of one instance where we were just like, why didn't he just say the one line? That's all we needed was the one line. Why didn't they do that? Why am I watching a movie right now? And then there was another instance where it happened where I'm pretty sure we ended up hiring the guy. So there is a fine line. I would say it doesn't need to be like fully edited. I don't know.
if you're gonna do that, I would say your performance better be so perfect.
Yeah. It's almost, but it's distracting. I would say at the end of the day, it is distracting. Yes, it's causing me to look and watch, but regardless, I'm watching self-tapes. And yes, I might be intrigued and have more people come over and watch it, but if it's not the right performance, it's not the right performance. And I think at the end of the day, it's just, don't do it unless you know that person in the casting office that's watching the first video or something. You know what I mean? Like, unless you know them for some reason and you know they'd get a kick out of it.
Yeah, and I think it's performance first.
Yeah.
Like, just
Yeah.
make sure that you've nailed that if you're going to take a risk. I think that's what I always say about taking risks. Make sure you've got that the role down. Huh?
It's like when you bring a prop or like wear a costume to the audition, like there's nothing wrong with putting on scrubs or a lab coat or whatever to, you know, to signify you're going in for that one-line doctor on the sitcom like that, you know, it's not distracting. But when you come in with like a full-on costume and maybe you're wearing a baby Bjorn with a dog in it, that can be a little bit distracting.
Especially if it doesn't call for it.
Luckily it did call for it for him, and it was awesome. He had a French bulldog in this little, and he looked like a bodybuilder. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. I think I took some pictures. I requested first. I didn't just like take pictures of it.
Right. So let's say people are, there's a number of questions there about like, do you want people to be in touch with you? Are postcards still a thing? You know, if they want to submit, if they don't have an agent, how to do so, that kind of stuff.
I think my email, if it's not on IMDb Pro, it should be there. If it's not, then it's not. But I do I will double check and make sure that it is there. But I am totally fine with people emailing my work email. That's not to say I'm going to respond because maybe I don't have anything going on right now, but there are so many times where, you know, I somehow get on an actor's maybe distro list and I don't necessarily pay attention maybe to the emails, but when I'm going through my submissions, that name will ring a bell if their name is in my submissions. And I might be more inclined to be like, oh, why do I know this person? So I'm not saying please people don't like inundate me with emails, but like those distro lists that lets people know what they're doing are great. Like I kind of enjoy them, you know, like it makes me feel like, okay, sorry guys, I'll put it up. It makes me feel like I'm a part of the community and I enjoy that.
So I'm just checked your IMDb here. I don't think it's on there. Do you want to share your?
Yeah, you can type it in there.
Okay, so I'll type it in. What is it? And I'll type it in.
Oh wait, I'll type it. What am I doing? I can type.
So let's just be clear though about what people should send you because we don't want to inundate you. What kinds of things?
I don't mind when people email to be like, hey, I saw this submission. I don't have an agent, but I am on Actors Access. That's totally fine. You know, like maybe I had someone reach out to me via Instagram because they don't have the money to upload the clips and do this and do that, but they want to audition. And who am I to stop them from auditioning? So, you know, we exchanged emails. I sent them what they needed to do, and hopefully I get a self-tape from that person. But yeah, I mean, I get emails. The most common types of emails are like the distro lists of like the people who maybe they're in improv and so they have this kind of class, or maybe they have like, you know, I don't know, they're going to be on a new show. Like I get little messages about that all the time too. And so I think as long as you're respectful and not inundating someone, that's really, you know, the best way to go about it. All that being said, I am very much an outlier, I feel like. I do not think a lot of casting people enjoy getting a lot of emails unless it is solicited. They don't like those unsolicited emails. But, you know, that's speaking for me.
Got it. So we won't extrapolate to other casting.
Yeah.
This is Jasmine's.
Like every single casting director. Well, Jasmine said.
Yeah, exactly. Jasmine said, you want me to send you. Are people sending postcards anymore? Is that a thing of the past?
It is a little bit of a thing of the past. I found that when I worked at Nickelodeon, it was like, oh my gosh, so many
postcards.
kids, like, and they're sending fan mail, or they're like, they've looked up your name on IMDb and they want to be in Nickelodeon shows. But I would say, like, in the adult world, a lot of times I feel like the postcards that I would see are really, like I said, the emails that are kind of like their newsletter for the month of what they're doing or whatever. There are people that will send like thank you cards and stuff like that. And that's always sweet. I always love getting thank you cards. But you don't need to send us gift cards every time, everyone. Some people do send gift cards, and that's a lot of money for people. So don't do that anymore. Just say thank you.
I have some people, because I taught in Toronto is my old hometown, and so is Vancouver. So we've got some people from Canada on the call. Roz is here, and there's some others. Nicola, are you from? I think you are, right? But anyway, do you ever take submissions from Toronto or Vancouver or any places in Canada?
Oh yeah. So when we're working on Star Trek is shot in Toronto. So we have a local casting director there, Lisa Parison, who's awesome. And
I know Lisa. Yeah,
she's great. And actually, I just finished watching Schitt's Creek, and she cast that. I don't know if you can see it, but my sweatshirt definitely says "Best wishes to you, warmest regards." But yeah, no, we see people from Canada all the time. Yeah.
That's great. And is that specifically for Star Trek, or is it also for any other projects as well?
It's specifically for Star Trek for me, because I'm usually doing very low budget things. Like I can't look in those places unless those people, you know, maybe can live here or have can be a local hire. But I don't even know if we're allowed to use that phrase anymore. There's so many things that we're not allowed to use anymore.
But what's the difference, like, between what you would cover versus what Lisa would cover in Toronto?
Oh yeah. So because it's okay, so on a TV show, she would be doing all of the day players. So anyone who has, like, you know, actually for almost the whole, we almost try to find every single role out of Toronto if we can. All the guest stars, co-stars, day players, all of those we always try to find it there first. If we can't find it there, then we will sometimes open it up to Vancouver or other parts of Canada. And then if we still can't find it, we will open it up to New York, because that's a little bit closer to Toronto than LA is. And then if we still cannot find it, then we open it up all the way. But for the most part, she will be looking for all of the roles, other than the series regulars, unless the producers tell us otherwise, like, hey, we want to find, you know, someone who, you know, maybe they want like someone from this show specifically. And so we would be the ones to go out and try to make those kind of offers and stuff.
Got it. So it's pretty collaborative between you.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I love working with them, and they they're so friendly, like, which is always great. But yeah, no, I love working with them, and it does feel like it's a very collaborative process. Like I can email them that, hey, I know of so-and-so in Toronto, will you see them? And that's not, they don't ever feel like I'm stepping on their toes.
Great. Something happened to the sound. I'm not sure what's going on. You hear that? Okay. Cool. Let's see here. Well, we have all sorts of a mix of all sorts of levels of actors on here. We have over 130 people have been on the call so far.
Okay.
And so we've got people that are working on, all the time. We've got people who are just starting out. If someone doesn't have an agent, can they just self-submit or just email you and say, hey, I don't have an agent, but I'd like to submit for this role?
Yeah. I mean, if they have Actors Access, go for it. I mean, if you know you're right for the role, submit yourself. And then I would say, if you don't have Actors Access, but maybe your friend, saw it, then again, yeah, self-submit like I said, people are finding me on Instagram. They're finding me in random places to ask me if they can audition. Doesn't mean I'm always going to say yes, just because you reached out to me on a social media platform. But if you are right for the role, I'm going to want to see you. I don't know who's out there. I think that's like the biggest thing for me is I don't know if you're the next freaking superstar of the world.
Right.
Right?
By the way, we had cut off the waiting room at 7:30, but there was someone with the last name Gutierrez, and I let her in because I thought she's related to you.
Oh gosh, is it Jessica?
Yes.
Yes, that would be my cousin. Hi, Jess.
she got in through nepotism. It was like, everybody else had to.
That's so funny. I love
it. Chris just texted me too. Is like, is that okay? So everybody's gonna be like, I'm related to Jasmine too. So what we could do now is just open it up. Unless is there anything else that you want to cover before we open it up to Q&A?
I mean, my biggest thing is read. And I know I said that already, but just read everything. And for people who maybe don't have agents or reps, I mean, obviously workshops aren't really happening right now because of all of this, but the workshops that are out there, maybe the virtual workshops, sign up for them, do these things, like go out there and be active. I mean, I think Krisha and Jamie once first explained to me that like casting is like a muscle. It's just like any other muscle. Like you need to be exercising and doing the thing if you want to be good at it. Practice makes perfect, right? So I would say just like write your own shit. Find friends that are writing their own shit and ask them if you can audition for it. You should just be out there throwing yourself out there as much as you possibly can.
Great. Okay, cool. So it's great. It's great advice. Let's see. So if you, how do I do this? Let's see. I'm going to collapse the chat. And then if you have a question, you can click on something that says raise your hand, and then I'll click on you, and then we'll open up your video. So let's see, Denise. Okay, Denise, you can open up your video and audio and ask your question. Hi, Denise.
Hi. Thank you, Jasmine, for being here and everybody. Quick question. I did submit for Cherry for the doctor role. I know I don't hound people and my agent and manager doesn't either, but are you okay with them pitching if we haven't followed up? Because there was no sides for that to send in the self-tape, and I haven't reserved this email.
Asia, here's what's going on with that. I'm focusing on Cherry right now. I'm not actually reading people for the other roles. I want to see what's out there with Cherry and kind of, I literally just started. So I just want to make sure me and the director are on the same page, right? So yes, I am going through and I am looking at those submissions. I believe there's a way for reps to see on their end if I've at least viewed the submission, not necessarily if I've selected it.
Yeah.
But I am going through almost everything except for the parents and the sister because they are related to Cherry. But yes.
Okay.
So yeah.
I think because it was a re-release and the new assignment, so it seemed like a long time, and I still, hesitate for.
I don't know. It's a good question. Someone reached out to me the other day asking if I was seeing other roles. So no, it's a great question.
I mean, I think it's a good question in general. Is like, you know, when do we urge our representation to follow up and when not? You know, or
Yeah.
do we just always? Do we always go, hey, find out, find out?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, it's always hard when someone like right after you send the breakdown and you get a phone call being like, are you still looking? And it's like, yeah, like definitely still looking because I just posted it.
I just
Um,
posted it 5 minutes ago.
exactly. So, I mean, I would say maybe like a day or two is not too crazy unless you can see that there's like, that maybe other people are getting auditions. Then you can be like, okay, well, maybe why am I not getting any appointments? Then I would say, yeah, reach out to your rep and they can, reach out to us. And it might just be, sometimes it's as simple as like, you're just not right. Like, and that sounds so bad, but it is so true. Sometimes you were just so right for the role and sometimes you're just not what they're looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about with like not having the in the room auditions anymore, because I do really well on those because of personality and confidence and choices, and I've been doing this since I was 6, so it's just ridiculous. But I'm worried I'm going to lose that on self-tapes, and
I get that.
I don't want to.
There are so many people that think that self-tapes, I know it's really scary because you're literally you send it off, and then if you don't hear anything, like, you don't know anything about it, right? Like, did they watch it? Did anything happen with it? And it's really scary. It's just out there in the ether. But, I think that what it comes down to is, you can't have the mentality of like focusing on the rejection or focusing on that aspect of it, right? Like, that's just, you're never going to be happy in those regards. And
yeah, I'm more worried about my personality not getting across in a self-tape like it does in the room.
I see.
Because once I'm out of the room, I'm on to the next audition. I give myself like 5 minutes. What could I have done different? And then you can't get the time back anyway. So why beat yourself up for it? Just move on and be confident.
I think that's like people said, like, as long as that performance is the performance and you're giving it your all, that's what matters. And that is what is going to pull you on into the next level of getting a call back or whatever it is. It's not always, no offense, the personality.
I mean, yeah, they're looking for personality that tends to be a little bit more for series regular or heavy recurring and that kind of thing. I think for a guest star or co-star, they just want it's in and out. It's just, is that person right? Are they not?
Yeah.
Commercials that way too. Commercials so fast. It's like,
okay. Thank you, Denise. We'll move on to the next.
Time, guys. Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Okay, let's see here. Christian, yay, Christian Henley. You can unmute and turn your video on. Hey.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Okay, what's up? What's your question?
Self-tape for Cherry?
Yes, I did.
I was like, I know that name.
Yes, I did. I hope it was okay. It was a little, actually, it's interesting because I was like having trouble, meeting up with friends. So I actually did a self-tape with like having a reader who was on FaceTime. So it's kind of like a
technological advancements, right? Like,
right?
we're all able to be connected even though we're literally not.
Yeah.
So Christian, what's your question?
So I kind of had a question more about, the process for casting. With the film of Cherry, I saw that you were attached later on to cast it and that she had tried to go through it herself. How does casting get attached to projects? What is your audition process and how do you?
Oh, that is like, I'm still figuring it out, to be quite honest. A lot of the stuff that I've been getting on the side when I'm doing my own thing is someone has recommended me. It's a friend of a friend of a friend. And it's been like so nice because it's like, oh, there's people out there that are like promoting me. Like, what? But I haven't quite figured out what the audition process is. Like, I don't know. How do I get on the list for like a new series? Do you know what I mean? I have no idea.
Really?
I would say, was there a second part to the question? I feel like
not really. I mean, I guess like, because it kind of with like
with Cherry, like specifically. So with Cherry, I mean, I believe that a friend that I worked with on a show, she knows the director, and I don't know if the director was just having a hard time or if she just was like, I think that honestly a lot of times too, producers and directors think of casting last. Like they don't think like, oh yeah, I need a casting director. Like I need someone to do that. They don't think of that when it comes to stunt coordination or art directing, but whatever, we're not going to go down that path. So, I mean, I think that sometimes it's just the last thought in their head, even though it's one of the most important aspects, right? Like the actors and the writing, I feel like are the two most important aspects. Like, and so I think that maybe, I don't know, I can't really speak for the director. Maybe she felt overwhelmed. Maybe she was just like, you know what? I just want to have someone else do it. I have no idea, but I spoke with her on the phone a couple of times, just kind of talking about what she was looking for, what she had been looking for. You know, I read the script and then we had another phone call. It's once again, it's like, are we vibing together? Do we get along? Like, am I understanding her script the way that she wants it to be understood? But yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Thanks, Christian. Nice to see you.
Hi, good to see you too.
Okay, we've got Richard Ryan. Richard, are you there? You can unmute and turn your video on.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hi. How's it going?
Look, he's flying. He's flying over the Golden Gate
Oh, this is
Bridge.
wonderful. I'm in San Francisco, having a great time.
So nice.
Thank you very much. First off, Jasmine and Michael for doing this, and thank you, Jasmine, for giving us opportunity to send the emails to you.
Of course.
Yeah, I have just a simple question. Do you prefer gray or blue background for self-tapes?
I like blue.
Blue? Okay.
But then don't wear like a blue shirt, right? But I will say, I don't know that people, I mean, like in my office, it has to be blue. And I mean, generally, they have a specific sheet that goes with us from office to office, wherever we live. We have one specific blue background. I can't remember where I bought it, maybe Bed Bath & Beyond, but it was also like 4 years ago. So
Good to know. Good to know.
I would say as long as it's a blank background, that's what matters.
Blank background, okay. Because we have really good lighting. We were doing gray background for a while, but we've been noticing blue. Some people are saying blue. So I off of Amazon, actually, I got a 10 by 20 blue muslin background with the thing on it. And so, yeah, I'll definitely do that now.
Make sure you don't wear a blue shirt so you don't blend into it.
Definitely no blue shirt.
And also think about your skin tone too. Like I've had people that for whatever reason, whatever color they've chosen, their skin tone just looks horrible on it. And for one person that color looks great, for another person they get completely washed out or they blend in too much. So
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's all different, and for different offices, it's all different based on your preference, and like you're saying, your skin tone can make a huge difference as well.
Okay, terrific. So well, definitely I'll have a blue background when I submit to you then.
Good to know. Thank you so much.
Hopefully for Cherry, right?
Did you submit for it?
No, not yet. How can I go about doing that, or should I just submit you my information through or to your email, my Actors Access?
Email or Actors Access. It's up there. It's just Cherry. It should be on Actors Access still. So, yeah.
Okay. This is my gray right now.
I love it.
great. That looks very professional. Very great.
Thank you.
Nobody is going to go, oh, he did a great performance, but he shot it on a gray background. So
God, no one's
that's good to know. Oh man, that's great. Well, you guys are fantastic. I'm here, and then every time you have one of these, I'll be here.
Great. Thanks a lot,
Michael.
Thanks for your question.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
Richard.
Richard.
Bye now.
Okay. Michelle doesn't say a last name, just Michelle. I actually have the power to turn video on.
Did that work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, hi guys. Thank you so much, first of all, to both of you for doing this, hosting it, and your time, Jasmine. So, yeah, my question is kind of part A and B. It's about Asians specifically, so this might not help a ton of people, but I'm Chinese, so I'm curious. So, you know, we always heard in the past that it was like there's not a lot of roles for Asians. I've been hearing that for decades, and then lately, you know, there's been like Crazy Rich Asians, all that. So I know it's getting better. I guess my question is more, are we still at a disadvantage, Asians in general, for acting, or is it at a slight advantage, or is it kind of neutral?
You know,
Do you see what I'm saying?
no, I
Because
totally.
there's still like a ton of roles, like there might be more though, but are we still kind of below the average, or?
You know, I obviously can't say anything definitively. I don't know. But I will say it's interesting that you bring that up because I worked on a film last summer called Snake Eyes. And it is he's a character from G.I. Joe. And traditionally, he is a white American vet from like the 70s. But he ends up becoming best friends with a Japanese guy who takes him to his home in Japan and teaches him how to be a ninja, essentially. I'm probably butchering the story of Snake Eyes, and I apologize to any diehard G.I. Joe fans. But in that, we didn't want to cast, we wanted to be as authentic to Japan as possible. So we wanted to literally only look for Japanese actors. But then it's like, you're only looking at Japanese actors? Like, you should be looking at any Asian actor who fits the bill, right? Like, it should, I'm not looking at a German white person different from an American white person, right? No, if they sound American, that's all that matters to me. They sound and look American. I will say it's a delicate fine line because you want to be authentic to someone's culture and you don't want to step on any toes, but at the same time, you don't want to limit who you're seeing. So it's a really weird battle. And I'm starting a new project that again has Japanese characters, and it is a discussion of, are we only going to see Japanese American actors, or are we going to consider actors who are, you know, Taiwanese or you know, from Singapore or from China? Like, it's a very interesting conversation, and it goes both ways. It's so weird. So it's a really good question. I cannot say definitively what I think. I will say for me, and luckily I've been working on projects where they want this, we literally, when we say any ethnicity, we do mean any ethnicity. Like,
okay.
We are like when I'm looking for anybody, I'm literally looking for anybody. So, you know, for Cherry, like, I am seeing girls that are Japanese, or I'm seeing girls that are Chinese, or I'm seeing Indian girls. You know, I mean, I'm seeing anyone who is just great in that performance. Like, that's what I want. I want to have the best performance possible. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, so it helps if agents submit Asians for like just any ethnicity roles too, because that actually segued, so that was perfect into my part B question.
Like,
It's like, should we just submit it for just Asian roles, or also all ethnicity? Do we get considered for all ethnicities that generally, like, you know, Caucasian and African American, Latino, you know? So
I mean, it depends on the office, but I would hope that if they're saying any ethnicity, they're literally meaning any ethnicity, that they want to see the best of what's out there. I don't think that you should limit yourself. Like, if you see on Actors Access, you know, well, it says any ethnicities, but do they really mean that? That to me means just Caucasian, but they can't say Caucasian, right? Like, a lot of people can think that. And I say, you don't know if someone is going to be right or not. So go for it.
cool. Thank you so much. And to both of you, it's my first one through Cohen's, but I'll be on more, so I really appreciate it.
All
Yeah.
right. Thanks,
Nice to sort of meet you guys. Thanks.
Judy Carmen Gonzalez.
Hello.
Judy, are you there?
I saw her chatting a little bit at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Judy, you know what? I can actually, I keep forgetting that I can click on her video. Wait, no, it doesn't let me. Oh, there she is. Okay. Hi, Judy.
Hi, can you see me?
Yes, we can see you. What's your question?
Hi. Well, thank you very much, Michael, for hosting. And I'd like to say thanks to Jasmine for her time. Can you see me? Because I can't see you anymore.
I see you.
We can see
Okay.
you. We can see you. What is your question, Judy?
So anyway, my question is in reference to the word Latinx.
Yeah.
I am Latina or Hispanic, so I'm kind of confused about that Latinx. when I see Latinx on a casting notice, what specifically are they looking for?
So, I mean, it's so interesting because I feel we're in such a unique, casting is weird, right? We have to judge people. Like we're literally supposed to be like not discriminating, but picking people based on what they appear as and then as they act. But that's also like a bad thing to do to someone, is to prejudge them. But we're in this weird time where words are having different meanings, or people are trying to find new ways to be more inclusive without excluding someone from a conversation, right? And so I think that Latinx is meant to, we're not trying to say I only want people from Latin America, which we're also saying I want people who are from Latin America, but who also speak Spanish. So it's like, I've learned that just because you're Hispanic, right? Hispanic means you speak Spanish, correct? You're a Spanish speaker. I believe that's the literal term, the literal definition. But when you're Latin, you're from Latin America. They are not interchangeable. And a lot of times people use them interchangeably. We'll say Latin or Hispanic, and they really mean the same thing, but they don't actually mean the same thing. And so I think that with the term Latinx, they're trying to make it more inclusive, and rather it just be, I'm looking for Latin people or Hispanic people, there's this one term that encompasses it all. Does that make sense?
Well, when I first saw Latinx, I gotta be honest, I thought it was rated X.
Oh, I could see that. I mean, I could totally.
I thought, what are they talking about? I've never seen that before, because I, pretty much have been in the business for about 35 years on and off. Right. And I never saw that until recently. And that threw me off totally, because yo también hablo español. And I'm thinking, okay, what is the X for? I mean, am I supposed to audition without a bra?
It's also, Judy, I think it's also an attempt to remove gender bias. So it's gender neutral, and it's kind of, I think, and I'm not the person to be speaking to this because clearly I don't fall into that category, but from the friends that I've spoken to who do identify as Latinx, it's sort of like with more awareness around gender identity and that kind of thing. It can encompass people who are non-binary, identify as male, identify as female, and are of Latin American origin in some way. And they may or may not speak Spanish. So it's a way to kind of be more inclusive, and that's why the language has changed. That's my understanding of it. And if anybody's out there, and if I'm wrong, please put that in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, it threw me off totally. Okay. I've never seen that X there before, ever. And well, I'm glad you explained it a little bit. I'm still a little bit like, okay. So, okay. So,
words are changing all the time. Definitions are changing as people learn more and start to become more accepting. So who knows, maybe in a couple of years, that phrase won't even be around anymore. We'll have a new way to describe that. It's so.
And by the way,
okay.
the Spanish speaking porn is Latinx XXXXX.
Oh,
yeah. Gotta get that.
See more than one X, then it's being filmed in Chatsworth somewhere.
Yeah, and it looks like some people in the chats are saying that it's about it being gender neutral. So yeah, there you go, Michael. You work.
Okay. Well, I mean, they should be specific, to be honest, on when they have that on there. That's all, because it threw me off, and I'm sure I'm not the only one.
That's where Google comes in handy.
Okay. Well, you're right. You're right.
Where, I think it's not up to the business to inform us. It's for us to keep up with it.
Gotcha.
So, and it's hard, and I empathize with you in that things are always changing. And if you're used to things being the way they were 20 years ago, it's
No, I know that.
But it's up,
yeah.
Look at like if things are changing in that kind of wording, and people are becoming more aware around gender and ethnicity and things like that, it's great for us as actors to also just keep up with it. And that's where Google is your best friend. If you don't understand something in a breakdown or a script, Google it, ask a friend, get support. It's up to us to keep up with it. So I'm really glad that you asked the question, because I'm sure you're not alone.
Oh yeah, exactly. So one last thing before I let you go. What is the proper, oh shoot, now I forgot. It was what is the right way to do an accent. I'm trying to say accent, okay? Because most Latinos have accents. So what is the proper way when you come into audition, they want to hear an accent? Do you just go with the accent that you, obviously, you know, I mean,
Right.
you grew up with? I mean, do you want to hear that in audition? That's my question.
I would say it depends on the character. You know, if they're looking for someone who, you know, where are you from originally? Do you mind me asking?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm originally from Chicago, and I was raised like on the East Coast.
So, okay,
Yeah.
like let's say it's someone, maybe they want someone who is from the West Coast, who doesn't necessarily drop certain letters or vowels or however the differences in accents are. I think it always depends on what the character description is. If it doesn't say anything about accent, it doesn't hurt to ask. Like, you can have your reps ask, like, hey, is there meant to be an accent here? I know, you know, I'm going out for a character that is of Hispanic or not Hispanic, of Latin descent. Do I need to have that kind of accent from, I don't know, maybe from, I'm trying to think of where Latin America is, and my freaking geography brain is not working. But I think it all just depends on the character. And then if you are unsure, I say always just ask. Like he said, always ask. Like, I don't think it hurts to it never hurts to ask a question.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, by the way, I'm Puerto Rican. That's why, you know, I'm from the East Coast. Yeah. And so my accent, you can actually hear it when I'm auditioning or doing stuff, you know. Anyway, that's all.
Judy, we have to move on. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, no, move on. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Okay, Pamela Holt.
I feel like I know that name.
Hi. Yeah. Hi. Yeah,
Look at your beautiful background. Is that for real or is that a backdrop?
backdrop.
That's so awesome. I love how it looks so real for everyone. Like,
well, do you have a green screen?
No, it's just a Zoom. You fill it in with Zoom.
Yeah.
It's a Paris background. It's really
What's your question?
Hi, Jasmine. You remember me from Matched? I think that's.
I was gonna say yes, I did.
What is one thing that you wish all actors knew? Whether it's before they walk into the audition room, before they self-tape, what's something you consistently say to yourself? God, I just wish they all knew this.
I've already said it. Read everything. I know it's so infuriating to get specific instructions, and there's so many, you know, especially if you have to go to like 3 different auditions or have to do 3 different self-tapes or whatever. But each casting office is putting all of that information out there to help you do the best job you can do. If they're not putting it there just because they want to give you extra hoops to jump through. So I would say read is really important, reading everything. I would also say it doesn't hurt to watch a self-tape, even though I know people do not like watching themselves, because you might have a tick that you don't realize. I remember when we were casting a pilot for actually Henry Danger for Nickelodeon, the kid who ends up playing Henry, Jace Norman, used to do this weird thing where he would go like this out the side of his mouth while he was talking. And we literally sat him down and made him watch the video, and we're like, do you notice anything? And it's you don't realize that you have these weird little ticks. Like, I know I for sure do. I use my hands a lot. So it's being aware maybe of those ticks that could be distracting. And once he was aware of it, he immediately stopped, and he was just like, oh, here's a great performance. Not distractible. So yeah, watch yourself once just to see.
And I have one other question. In self-tapes, like a medium shot, maybe like to the waist versus something, not an extreme close-up, but a close-up shoulders up.
Yeah.
Which do you prefer? Because I know so many casting directors constantly say, I just want to see your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I would say generally, I always tell people their self-tape should be what it would be if I was in the office taping them, which is generally about like right above right middle breast to like an inch above your head. I I don't know if like, I would always say, once again, just read the instructions. Sometimes they do say like, I want it really tight. I want to see your face. Or sometimes they want it wide because they want to see your physicality. I know some offices that literally it was always wide. And I was like, what is the point? And she was like, well, I know what they can act like. I want to see. It was very bizarre. I didn't get it. So, I mean, it does depend on the office and the instructions, but I would say generally like, the framing I'm in right now is kind of
Yeah, like a medium close up.
yeah. All of our framing is really good. The three of us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, Pamela. There's a bunch of questions that people have. I don't know, like I'm looking at people's hands being up. That's who I'm calling on.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't, but there are a lot of questions about what about older actors. Is there anything that you can speak to, Jasmine, about that and about older actors in their career? How often do roles come up for older actors? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's so right before the world kind of shut down, we were working on a film and we were told that because of it all starting, insurance companies weren't even letting production companies hire people older than 75. Like, so we literally couldn't look at actors who were over 75 because an insurance company would not insure them because of what was happening. Obviously, everything has shut down. That's going to change in the future. But it's interesting because there just isn't that many roles, right? Like they just don't come up that often. And I do think a lot of times it does come up in the sense that they want to be safe. I agree, right? 75 is the new 50. Someone put that in there. I totally agree. My grandfather is like, my great grandfather lived to 96, and so and he was very, very sprite and like able to do things. And so I don't know why they aren't out there. I would say that's a question for writers, right? Like they're the ones who need to be writing in those characters.
Yeah. We have like 2 minutes left, so I'm just going to take one more question, and then we'll have to close out. Jaden. Hi, Jaden.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Thanks, you guys. This has been excellent. My question is for those of us who fall into the big chunk category, brunette, 30s, mom. One of the first gentlemen. There's certain people that you're in the age, you're in the look, that you're going to have the majority of competition. Obviously, if it's a more extreme role with unique look, description, character, then it's easy. Like, do they give a great performance? And you only have a couple options. But when it's big, is there anything? Let's assume they've got a great headshot. They do an amazing performance. They got the best self-tape. They got a blue background. They do everything right. So I don't know if there's anything else you can think of that a person who falls into the biggest areas can do.
I mean, it's so funny because I have friends that are in their early 30s and they're blonde and blue-eyed and beautiful, and it's just like the world is horrible for you right now.
Like, yeah, my friend feels that way too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it's different and unique. It's interesting because it's like you're finally seeing what minority. Sorry, no, like I'm not trying to harp on you.
Yeah.
I honestly, it's what you already said and what Michael said. It's going to be the performance because that's what they're going to, and honestly too, there could be a producer who maybe you did have a great performance and everyone else likes you and wants it to be you, but that producer goes, yeah, but her like bangs remind me of XYZ and I can't get it out of my head. And that literally happens. And there's nothing you as an actor can do, right? There's literally nothing. You've done everything you could possibly do. And just because you happen to resemble something, they don't want to go with you. So it's always going to come back to performance. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
But I would say just keep going, keep working. You'll hit your stride. You'll hit, you know what I mean? Like you start when the roles are right for you, you get those roles. So
that's true.
Thanks, Jaden.
All right. Thank you.
So my dog has a question.
Yes. Where are my dogs?
Yeah, where are your dogs? He's lonely. We're out of time, but what I want to do is everybody can open up their video. First of all, I want to thank you for your time and your incredible thoughtfulness and your questions. And just so you can see the faces, everybody can open their video and you know, so Jasmine has a chance to actually see who's on the call.
I know, it's like there's so many of you.
And, look at all
Hey,
these.
Jasmine.
Hi.
Hi, Jay.
You disabled my video.
Yes.
Thanks for doing this, Jasmine.
I can't get it to go.
Thank you, Jasmine. Michael, you disabled us.
Thank you.
Hi,
Everyone.
doggy.
Michael, you look like William Shakespeare.
Says the video's blocked me.
Yeah,
Oh,
Mine's blocked.
I think whoever asked a question, their video's blocked.
Yeah, mine is locked.
Like once you've been seen.
Oh, wow. Really?
Me too, Michelle. But hi, thank you again.
Jasmine, I named my dog Jasmine.
Thank you.
My dog's name is Jasmine.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you,
Okay,
Jasmine.
you look
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Jasmine,
so much.
letting me audition for Obake. For you guys.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Jasmine. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Michael.
great. Thank you.
Susan,
Yeah, I'm blocked.
You guys look for your
Reggie De
email.
Leon is on here too somewhere.
Guys. I can't get mine open.
Doing my chat.
Start your video because the host has stopped it.
You should be able to open. Everybody should be able to open their video.
This is great. Thanks, Michael.
Michael.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, look at that backdrop.
Those backdrops are crazy.
Thanks, Michael.
I mean, I
Happy
did.
Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, everyone.
Finally. Hi, Jasmine.
Satya. Aloha, Satya.
And the cat. The cat's so cute.
Say hello. It's an attitude.
Dogs, but we put it in the room.
My kitty.
Star of the show. You know, they say don't work with animals or children.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Great.
It was so
Thank you,
lovely.
Jasmine.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Stay safe, everyone.
Awesome.
We should all cast each other in something.
Yes, yes.
Right.
All right, Michael.
Okay.
Be safe, everybody. Thank you.
Everybody.
I will see everyone hopefully soon, either via self-tape or an in-person audition.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Jasmine.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, Michael. You look like Shakespeare, Michael, today.
All right, I'm trying to.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Mike.